So this is the second live about social skills decomposition. So I will continue the work that I started 2 days ago, and let's see how it goes. Today, only 1 hour today. But the plan for today is to start decomposing the humor, because this is something that is more interesting to me. I installed OBS and I want to see if I am able to see how this works. Okay, I see it won't work today. I will check once again in the evening, and I will have another check. But for now, let me just continue as normal. This way. Yes, it should be done this way. I have this thing. Decompositions. Calendar. Super. Save. Social skill system. String to be deleted. This also to be deleted. Okay, this is open, so I can start sharing my screen. I think I will try to do this from the Chrome tab, maybe this time. This will be the best. Do the sharing today. To do this shortly. So I didn't do this previously, but I'm interested how it looks like. I'm not sure if this works. I see black screen for whatever reason. No, it looks okay. So let me refresh the screen, because I'm really not sure what's wrong here. It works. Okay, it works correctly. So okay, so now everything is right. Let me open page humor. Humor is actually the pattern interrupt part. So I could create a folder name pattern interrupt. Pattern interrupt. Move pattern interrupt to pattern interrupt under pattern interrupt and humor 2. Oh yes, this way. This will be introduction rather. Here. Introduction. Introduction. But I would like to concentrate on this one today. I read few books about this, So I will go from with the information that I gathered. I will do this from the different laptop I have. Get the most important information about this. So two important things that I um, need to cover. So humor techniques, ways how to train humor. Humor, maybe playfulness would be a better name. It's a little more broad. Mm, let me open this page. So there's quite many techniques that could be used for to increasing playfulness. Playfulness. So yes, that's correct. And I am wondering right now how to tackle this in the best way. Mhm. Mm. Ways how to train humor in social situations by making 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 performances by writing. Mhm. Yeah, there are many humor techniques. I have listed them from the book, for example, from Rigor Hart book, How to Be Funny and Make People Laugh, or from the from book of other guy, Gina Perez, that also create a book of exercises to be better at humor, about playfulness. It's more difficult for me because I don't have very well scheduled in my memory, so it's more challenging for me to think how to do it because I could go through those humor techniques, but this is maybe less relevant. I could write time important for now. Mostly spend time on this part. Mm, this part. Mm. So being more funny or having the skill to make people laugh needs to be trained. Needs to be trained, and there are few ways, at least now I think, because it's not very well described in books that I read. So yeah, it's very vague. It's very vague. Also by immersion, watching humor stuff, etc., and inspecting this. It's also a way to get better at this. So there are like four ways how this could be worked out. Still not sure how to handle handle this because I could move it here, but I am not sure. Um, I could move this part to separate course, but I think this should be done in the end when I have more prepared. So right now, maybe I will skip and just write what is the most interesting. So let me see what I wrote about this in the past. Humor. No, differently. Let me reconstruct those situations first, and then only I will go back to this. So let me create the. Ah, let me destroy this. Delete bullet points. Back. Ways how to train human. This one. We will move this in the end because this is more important. H2, H3, 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 H3. Okay, in social situations. Continue save. Let me check the sound because I'm interested in the quality of sound. I moved my microphone closer, and I sometimes notice that I am mumbling, so not talking very precisely. So I need to work on this and always talk very precisely, like to other people. Like to other people, Mm, always. In social situations, so we go to social setup situations. We go to social setup situations, and then when some trigger event happens, when some trigger under some trigger, when then under some trigger event, somebody said something. we say funny stuff. The first problem that I noticed when I tried this part, this solution, is that there are not many possibilities. Train it in an unforced way. Mm, mm. I would say that there needs to be a very specific type of meeting in order to train this, and sometimes we just don't have possibility to do it, or it's very difficult. It's very difficult because we need to go out, we need to talk to strangers, um, or we need to schedule some meetings with friends, something like that. So we have always the possibility to talk. I found this difficult. I found this difficult to do it because our attention flips. So for sure, obviously, this exercises needs to be done in social situation. This is absolutely true. But for the training, I think it's a little too difficult. I will bit diffi- difficult to train as base. This is rather like an exam check of our skills. So this is my current thoughts about this. That this is rather something that where we check our skills rather than train this, because it's just not enough possibilities. Uh, it's not enough possibilities to do it, or this playfulness system, this humor system would require some kind of setup to lead to have those social situations where it's easy to train those skills, like very specific meetings when we met with people that also train the humor, something like that. Social in, actually I could write this in random social situations, in unenforced social situations, in, let me write this random social in normal social situations, and we have in setup social situations. So meetings specifically designed to train humor. Mhm. Here is the problem that one needs to create meetings, etc. So it's a lot of work, a lot of work. I think there are better ways by making performances. What I mean by making performances, so this could be something like stand up, or this could be something like what I do right now, so the live stream on YouTube. Because I am talking right now, and I could add humor to my talking just like that. I could just add humor to my talking and be concentrated during this stopping to use some fewer techniques. And because the slice, something like that, takes a lot of time, then there are many possibilities to train the humor. And because not many people are watching something like that right now, it's nobody, then it's less stressful to do something like that. So hmm, I will go by immersion. Maybe let me go for this. By writing, just write more stuff. I think this is very artificial to train humor this way, but to some extent, this is recommended, for example, by Jean Perret. But this is for stand-up comedians and people who are working in the humor industry. When I say playfulness, I mean playfulness in social situations rather than being a stand-up comedian. Stand-up comedian, stand-up comedian. So for me, this is something that is particularly interesting for me. By immersion, we watch stand-ups, comedies, and immerse into it. Mhm. So, like to sum up this thing, I would right now opt for the base training of the humor by doing performances like live stream on YouTube, or if somebody have the possibility, some kind of stand-up something like that, and then some exams or something like that. Exams, just checking mm, how we made the progress in just in doing this in normal situations. Maybe this could be checked, but I don't think so. I don't think it's very important. And immersion mm, also sometimes should be done. So for me, these two are secondary, but I wouldn't omit them altogether. And about social setup situation, I would try to avoid this right now and only go back to this if those methods don't work. No, just don't work. Just for example, this doesn't work very well. Playfulness pattern. Mm. Playfulness. Why is how to change him? I will delete this. No, also how to train. I will do it this way. How to train it? This one. Social techniques is to be deleted. It's a technique. Techniques. Techniques. Okay. Hmm. Decomposition or what should I do next? Because when we have a performance, then we need to have. Let me just write my thoughts. When we have a performance, then we can have a plan to do during the humor plan, the playfulness plan, when doing the performance. When doing the performance. And we could, for example, give a score. And we could give a score how well we did. Obviously, the problem with giving a score is always that we need to count those points at the end, which takes a lot of time. So this is why I don't particularly like this idea. For honest dur. But I imagine that I could have like one or two more techniques, and I need to just apply them as many times as possible, intentionally, intentionally. So during saying this, I know that I say this. So this needs to be full consciousness. It doesn't count when I say something funny because it just happened. So I would exclude these type of situations, or more precisely, I would exclude them if I just am fully not aware that I did something funny, or the person did something funny. So only those two situations count when I intentionally say something that is funny, that is planned to be funny, or I say something funny, and after saying this immediately, I know that this was this technique and this apply. Mm, mm. So we have performances. We have performances schedule. Mm, There is also another thing that I need to think right now about this. Let me add playfulness. Timeline. I will call it timeline for now. There is some event that happened. Trigger point. Trigger point. So there is something that happened. Mm, Something that can lead to humor situations. Humor situation needs to happen. I will go later to this. Maybe not by bullet points. Trigger point. Selection of humor techniques. Selection of humor techniques. Delivering humor technique. Delivering humor technique. Optional stacking humor techniques. Humor techniques. Hmm. This actually it's probably not the way how people typically deliver humor because nobody select humor technique. They are not aware of any humor techniques. They just something came to their memory that is funny and they say it. So there is a difference how in the system, hmm, how in the system we are working on humor compared to the normal situation when we are using the humor, when we are using the humor, and I don't know if this is good or not, just thinking about this right now. just but let's say that selection of humor technique, because we have few to select. Select. Selection of humor technique. Selection of humor technique. And constructing in memory. Set up this punchline. So humor, yeah, and this needs to be delivered in some way, typically verbally, but sometimes maybe non-verbally, and then stacking to optional humor techniques. So first of all, something happened. Then we need to have awareness that something happened. Uh, Awareness that something happened. Something happened. Awareness that something happened. Awareness that something happened. Let me go to the next. Composer. Yes, something happened. Somebody said something. Something happened. Something fall down. Some event happened. Some event in physical world. And some event in internal world happened. Like thought, our thought, emotion, etc. Yeah, so we get some thought, and this actually triggers some humorous saying, or somebody else said something or expressed, did something, or did something. Some event in physical world happened. You know, something fall. There was a wind. Somebody came in, and we are like in this different social setup. Here. Let me think. What other things could happen? Because I was thinking deeply about this. No structure. There is also a structure that can sometimes help. And so this would be actually very important to train during a performance. I will see this later. Triggers. Ah, okay. So there is event action that can trigger humorous situation, but there is also state that can trigger the situation. State. and words. Words, event, states. Words, event, states. Uh, just somebody said something or did something, or somebody said some specific phrase, word. But this goes into this. This goes into this. Mhm. So actually, something happened is not the greatest name because sometimes nothing happened. Sometimes the event that happened is that we noticed something. Just notice something. So noticing something can lead to big shit. So triggers. So actually, awareness that something happened is a trigger. Is a trigger. I mean, this is necessary condition. So when I think about this, just focusing on something could be a trigger. Focusing on something could be a trigger. Excuse me. Sorry. Mhm. Let me go back to this. Triggers. This is actually not a trigger, but focus. Focus. Focusing. Is not a trigger. Hmm. Awareness. Awareness is a very important part of playfulness. This is why it's so difficult being playful, because there are many conditions that needs to be done. One is to detect those triggers, trigger situations. So when I think of this, there needs to be some focus on some area of life or the situation where we detect situations. Then, based on this awareness of that something happened, we find something humorous in this and say this. Mm. Awareness ideas. Awareness scope, awareness scope, maybe. Maybe awareness scope. I call it for now. Awareness scope. Somebody said something or did something. Somebody said some specific phrase or word, which is like the subtype of this one. Some event in physical world happened. Some event in internal world happened. Internal world happened. Our thought, emotions, etc. happened. Something just is. Something just is. So the more we are able to detect in the situations about our thoughts, our emotions, etc., about what things are currently, I don't know how something looks, what happens currently, the more we are aware, we know is, the more we are see what happened. That's also something that can improve our unders easiness to deliver, to find out humor technique, or then also the awareness of what somebody said or did, or even the awareness of specific words, phrases that somebody did. All of this creates situations that could be applied in the humor techniques. Mm. This actually, when let me go back. This actually awareness of situations could be practiced in social situations for sure. So in social situations, but even by watching some stand-ups or anything, so this awareness is something that could be practiced this way. Let's say detect 5 things that somebody said, or detect 5 internal thoughts that appear during a social situation, or 5 emotions. Mm. I forgot about the last type of thing, which is canned material. Canned material, or we just say something because we planned to say something, and this is irrelevant to the situation we are in. We just plan to tell something and we say it. Yes. Awareness. Yes. So this could be removed. And selection of the humor technique. Mm. I don't know if this is a good part. Gamification on generally in those systems and in working on yourself, it's important to narrow the scope of things we can do, because like having too many options is overwhelming. So by saying selection of humor technique, I mean that instead of having infinite number of options, what we can say, we just narrow this to just a few, and then train only there, train our mind to do this. So we have less options, but it makes it easier, because anyway, at the end, constructing even based on this one selected humor technique, something is difficult, is challenging. So having this narrowed as much as possible could potentially help to improve our skill, I think. But maybe I am wrong. Maybe immersion is just the way to improve it, but immersion is something that one can't. I delete something, unfortunately. Let me do this once again. Awareness that something happens. This is something Hmm, I didn't save. So here. So my thought was that maybe immersion is something that is the most important in order to train humor. Mm, So once again to the timeline. So one thing is detecting triggers, and the other thing is delivering humor techniques. So those three things. Um, so we detect something, then we need to have ideas in our mind. Those ideas need to appear. Then we need to filter out those of them that aren't funny, are boring, and just select these one that are good enough, good enough. They doesn't have to be perfect. They just needs to be good enough, and then deliver them. Because sometimes delivering could be uncomfortable. So saying something funny sometimes just requires crossing the comfort zone. Sometimes here the part is crossing the comfort zone. Here is the difficulty is the awareness, and here the difficulty is creativity. Here is difficulty is creativity, awareness, creativity, courage. Awareness, difficulty. So I need to write problem. I need to write, detect triggers. So this is training. This is training awareness. This is training awareness. So the better awareness we have, the more triggers we find. The more we find potential triggers, and as a consequence, we have more humor possibilities. possibilities. How to make working on awareness easier? We can narrow the scope of where to be aware. Need to be aware. Just like in mindfulness. So in mindfulness, the easiest way to get into present moment is focusing on breath. Then in the humor, we could do the same. So instead of looking at everything at once, we can just focus on one specific thing. So for example, we can be aware only on our thought process, or we can be fully aware on our emotions, or we can be only aware on the, let's say, color that is around us, so how is the color of things around us, and etc etc. Can be only aware on one. We can narrow the scope of things we are need to be aware, and just being aware of this greatly narrow the scope, increase our focus, and make it easier to detect things. I like this idea. Still don't know how to apply it. Selection of humor technique. Selection of humor technique. I'll delete this because hmm, selection of humor technique. I don't know, maybe this way, constructing in memory punchline. This is training. I like want to this to be bolded. This is training creativity. But also to some extent technique. So there is a technique that helps creativity. Ah, this is interesting. The better create, the more creative you are, uh, the more ideas you have. The more ideas we have, uh, as many having many ideas, filtering. There is this filtering needed at the end. So we have ideas, and there is this thought process that need to filter filter if we say something or not. But people typically say that in social situations we shouldn't think too much and shouldn't evaluate those things, and we should let go. So maybe this is a mistake. Maybe filtering is is mm, maybe this is harmful. Filtering stuff is hard. We should just say what we have. We have idea and we just say it without filtering. There is always a risk that the humor technique will go wrong. So maybe I could actually give it here. Delivering humor techniques. Maybe this is harmful. So this generally this delivering. Fuck. Delete me. Yes. This is training courage. Courage. Mm, we need to say something, even if we are unsure that this something will land well. So we need to make bets, risk sometimes by saying something, even if we don't know if this punchline, this setup, this humor technique will work or not. So filtering can be harmful actually. Filtering is something I would say good for stand-up comedians that they are working on their own stuff when they are in their house. They is filtering because they need to have good humor, but filtering in social situations or in improvisation isn't a good. So we have three difficult paths. First is awareness, there is creativity, and there is a courage. I make many ideas, so I will delete this because actually, even having one idea, you will be good enough. You need to be creative enough to have one idea. The more creative you are, the faster some ideas will appear now. Some idea will appear. How to make working on creativity easier. We have only one humor technique to do. Let's say exaggeration. Technique in our mind. In our mind, we have only one humor technique in our mind to use instead of infinite number of 20 different techniques. But I think this is still not enough because the technique is also mm, the construction. We have some rebuild humor construction, construction ready. So we have like a template of given humor technique, and we just fill into this template. So, for example, humor technique is exaggeration, but then we have some kind of sentence or something like that we have ready in mind for the exaggeration, and we just fill blank into blank those humor stuff. Construction ed, yes. So these are two things that can narrow the scope when we need to find looking for the ideas. So creativity, but where we very narrow the scope, greatly narrow the scope in delivering. So this will be the last thing today. Last thing in this live stream that I will be thinking how to make working on courage. Courage is easier. Winner effect. You need to do something before that. Before that will make us more confident. It is for sure. Mm, mm, Having easier techniques, less risky humor. Having easier techniques, less risky humor in the beginning that are not that can be controversial. Having easier techniques, and the last thing, easier environment. Easier environment. So what I mean by that is how to train it. So by making performance in live stream on YouTube, it seems to be easier, let's say, than doing this in normal social situation around, for example, some strangers and many strangers, which is the most difficult. By writing, it's much easier. In setup social situations, it's also easier to train those because it's by design. This meeting is to train humor. So this also is a way to train this. And I think for now it will be it because I need to go. And I will come back to this later because I think good work was done today. I went through different ways how to train humor or playfulness. I still don't know how to call it, and then go through the timeline of the of the humor situation. So it's very good progress for today, I would say. Thanks for attention. See you later. Bye.